everybody. Welcome back to my Zero Carb Life. I am Kelly Hogan, and if you have any idea who I am, you definitely know who this guy is. I am here today with the Dr. Shawn Baker. How are you, Shawn?
Kelly, I'm good. It's great to be back. Good to get another chance to chat with you.
Thanks. So our main topic today is exercise. But before we start, I would love to hear more about the carnivore research that you are raising funds for right now that I've donated to, and I'm going to donate some more, and I'm trying to encourage others to donate. Tell everybody what it's about.
Yeah, so as you are well aware, there's been a community of people that have been doing this carnivore diet for a while, and so many of us have seen benefits. And certainly I've been a passionate supporter of this. It transformed my life. I've seen it transform the lives of countless thousands of people now. In my view, it is the most powerful intervention out there that you can do for chronic disease. You go out to the grocery store, out to the wherever in public, when you can still go in public, and you just see all these people that are truly suffering. I feel as a physician, my passion is to help as many people as possible. And I think some of the major criticisms of this diet is, it's all anecdotal. It's great. You've got some people that seem to get better, but it could have been all these other things. And when we look at nutrition research in general, most of it is based on epidemiology, which is basically just a collection of anecdotes. I mean, this is most of our nutritional knowledge is basically ask a bunch of people what they thought they ate, and they try to remember, and it's self-reported data. That's all anecdotal. That's 90% of our nutrition research. And so what many of them cite is, hey, look, there's no peer-reviewed controlled studies on this. Mm-hmm. And I fully understand that. And I think in order to broaden the appeal of this diet, to broaden its utilization, and in turn help literally millions upon millions of people, that is one of the necessary steps that needs to be done.
So when it's funded, do you plan on studying people who have already been doing carnivore, or taking new people, putting them on carnivore, and then studying those results? More on that line?
Yeah, absolutely. A second. So If you've already been on carnivore, you're not going to be in business. We want an intervention. We want to take the standard person that's maybe obese, maybe inflamed, maybe metabolically sick. We're debating on what are the best outcome measures. Yeah. And take them and say, hey, we're going to put you on a carnivore diet, and we're going to compare them to another group, and we're going to do a different intervention to them and say, hey, which one works best? You got to be able to show that they can stick to it, it's safe, and it works. And if we can demonstrate those three things in a truly scientific manner, then I think we've gone a huge way to getting this more widely accepted. I think carnivore is unique in that we see so many people with mental health issues get better, digestive issues get better, inflammatory issues get better, autoimmune issues get better. So I think that's where it really shines and steps apart from the maybe the other low carb, keto, paleo type options. So if you need 200 people to show an effect, these studies start getting really, really expensive. And then that's just for the labs or the DEXA scans or whatever, or the people that have to do the measurements. And that's not has nothing to do with what the researchers are going to charge you, what the facilities fees are, what the institutional review board fees are. These are not cheap to do, and so that is, that's why we got to get money.
That's a good explanation of cost. I mean, I didn't even know what you were attempting to do, but hearing you talk about large groups of people, where now you're going to study them, test their blood, pay a researcher, that does not sound cheap. Okay. Next subject, exercise. This is something that you do daily. You have world records set. You are so into exercise. And then you've got carnivores like myself who are like, nah. So what I tell people when I get asked almost daily, do you exercise? Do you exercise? I am active. I have 3 little kids. We hike, we swim. I try to post, stories and Instagram posts and Facebook posts showing that we are active. So how important is it that I don't spend a lot of time in the gym?
You can get a very effective results with very little time. You can do it at home. You don't need to go to the gym. I think that, outside of a carnivore diet, which I think fixes a lot of issues for people. I think people that exercise versus people that don't, the people that exercise usually tend to have better outcomes with regard to health, with regard to longevity, with regard to dysfunction. As we get older, and I'm in my 50s now, so it's important, you start to think, the older you get, the more you think about these things. But it's very important to maintain your independence and function. Yeah. And if I were to say, what is the one sort of exercise I would do to best get my most bang for the buck, it would be some amount of strength training. And there's lots of ways to do that. When I came to a carnivore diet as an athlete, somebody in broken world, I was kind of a bit of an anomaly. Most of the people that have been doing carnivore were people that were really sick. Yeah. And these weren't athletes. These were people that were kind of desperate. They were people that, the medical system it failed them for many reasons. They tried everything else. It was an act of desperation. These weren't athletes. These were just sick people. And they found that that's what healed them. And then you would see a few people that were into exercise, but it wasn't the majority. And so now we're seeing a little bit of a shift because we're seeing, we've got NFL athletes. Yeah. We've got Super Bowl champions that are on a carnivore diet now. We've got athletes from all over the world, high-level, professional-level athletes doing carnivore. So it works for those people as well. As much as I say just eat meat, drink water, particularly fatty meat, works for them. That's a really good message for most people. And it's really simple and it resonates and it works well for the majority of people. I think some people, depending on where you are, some people will find that a higher fat approach will work. Some people find more protein works, particularly athletes that are wanting to put on muscle and size and that sort of stuff. But with regard to exercise, for the average person, the goal should be, if I were to prioritize things, I would say the first thing I would do is make sure that I have adequate lean muscle mass to do what I need to do and function as long as I possibly can. Males, females particularly. I cannot tell you how many females I saw in their 70s, 80s, and 90s that were, came rolling in on a stretcher with a broken hip and, just miserable quality of life. You could tell they had just spent decades just declining. And they didn't have very good quality of life. And so quality of life is so important at all times, but particularly as we get older because we're so vulnerable then. And, you think about it, you work till you're 65 or 70 or whenever you retire, you spend 30, 40 years, 40 years working. And then you've got these dreams of retirement where you're going to go travel the world and go to the Eiffel Tower and go to Machu Picchu in Peru and hike these steps. But when you get there, you can't do anything. You're miserable. You hurt. You don't feel good. You don't have the strength. And it's like, well, what did I just waste my whole life on for? So I think, developing that stuff is incredibly important. Now, many people, and I know you guys in zeroing in health and stuff like that say, well, don't exercise at the beginning. And I certainly think that's reasonable. When I transitioned to carnivore diet, I was already exercising. I just kept going. I noticed a little dip initially and then I went right back up. But I think there's people that, they might be somebody who's completely sedentary, that's suffering from diabetes and all kinds of inflammatory issues. I do the same thing. I said, hey, just fix your diet when you start feeling good. When the inflammation goes away, when your knees start hurting, when your back stops hurting, when your energy's good, then you might want to consider gradually, increasing your activity level. It can be fun, and you find something that you enjoy. If you find it, sweating in the gym is cumbersome, you don't enjoy it, find something else that you can do. There's lots of things. The number one predictor of success with exercise is going to be whether you can continue to do it. It's going to be compliance. So if it's something you don't like, you're not going to stick with it. And then I think beyond compliance, it's going to be consistency, and then it's going to be efficacy. What are you doing that actually works? And so you can, like I said, there's the nice thing. I like being objective because I can measure things and I can literally watch myself get better. I can see, hey, last week I could only do this X number of times. Guess what? I added 1 or 2 repetitions to that this week. And so it becomes like you kind of gamify it. I'm sure with the kids you teach and they like games that teach them how to, you make them play a game, but you secretly educate them at the same time. You can do the same thing with your exercise where you kind of have different goals and you can watch yourself progress, and there's different ways you can do that where you can gamify that. So that's kind of the general thought. So I would say I would start with, strength training. And then after that, the next priority, if I had more time, I would do something that would provide some cardiorespiratory benefit that is efficient from time. And I tend to prefer high intensity interval type stuff. That's kind of sprinting type stuff. So on a bike, on a rowing machine, actually running physical wind sprints. There's a lot of ways you can structure that and try to do it so it's a safe way that you don't get injured. And then that may only be 15 minutes, so you can get more bang for your buck. Whereas, other people will say, I'm going to go jog for an hour. Well, that's an hour of time that you may not have. And so, like I said, if you're crunched for time, I'd say some really effective strength training. And then beyond that, it becomes, maybe high intensity interval type stuff. And then just go for a walk. Just go outside and go for a nice, peaceful walk. And again, it depends on who we're talking about. If we're talking about diabetics and stuff like that, there's more potential benefit for that than some of these other things. And so I think, particularly when it comes to blood sugar control. So there's different ways to structure the exercise depending upon what your needs and goals are. But I do think, you do carnivore, you get healthier, you don't worry about tracking, you don't like, a lot of people are attracted to this. Hey, I ain't got to think about this. Give me some meat. I'm not hungry. I'm not going to eat. And it works. And I lose weight or I feel better. But then at some point, in my view, like I said, I'm looking for aging, and it's good to see you incorporating some exercise into your lifestyle now. But as I look at, what's going to differentiate me as a 50-year-old versus another 50-year-old, I think having some strength, having better function is going to continue to, if it doesn't improve your quality of life, it may not be beneficial. But I would say there'd be the rare person where we're getting stronger, a little bit stronger. You don't have to be Mr. Olympia or some Olympic champion, but just stronger than you were last year is not going to improve your quality of life. It almost invariably will. It gives you more confidence. It makes you feel better. You're more functional. I don't want to be the 70-year-old guy that can't carry my luggage.
Right.
You just don't want to be that person. And so how do you prevent that? It starts yesterday. It starts as soon as you can as soon as you feel good to start doing that. I think most people should.
So I read something by Mark Sisson that was about the benefit of that quick sprint that you mentioned. And I was like, well, I could do that, because literally a sprint, he was saying, even if you only sprinted for a minute, if you did that, 2 or 3 times a week, that could have some benefits. So I thought, my gosh, surely I could find 2 to 3 minutes per week. So I just go to the end of my driveway, and I've done this now for however long, I guess since March, when we all started sitting on our butts all the time. Go to the end of my driveway, and I run down to the end of the cul-de-sac and back as fast as if I were being chased by a cheetah. The fastest I can go, up on my toes, sprinting, which I have to say I'm not much of a runner, so it's probably not fast, but I'm definitely not plug, jogging along, right? And when I get back, then I feel like, okay, I did a minute. And then my other thing I've sort of made a deal with myself is when James and I watch TV at night, if that TV is on, I'm not going to be sitting in a chair. Because before I was just sitting there, and then I was looking over at James, who was snacking, and I sort of thought, it makes you want something. I thought, there's no reason for me to be sitting in a chair. I might as well be working on push-ups. So I watch you all the time doing your push-ups. I was like, all right, here I go. Shawn, I could not do a single real push-up. So I started off on my knees, and I could do 10 of those pretty easily, take a little break, do 10 more. And eventually I got to where I realized one day, oh, cool, I can do a real push-up. And then I could do 5. And just like you were saying, it became a little bit addictive, like, ooh, now I've worked up. Now I can do 10 before I take a little break. And I do a few sets of those just while we're watching TV. And I'm not, spending a lot of extra time away from my family. The kids are in bed. And sometimes if they're awake, they like to try to join in too. They can't do a push-up with a hoop, but they like to try. And it's just something I could do at the house. I saw you say the other day that planks are basically, you feel like that's a pretty big waste of time, right?
Yeah, I got a lot of negative feedback for that. I say, like I said, the general thought where people are talking about benefit from plank is it develops their quote unquote core, their lower back, abdominal muscles and stuff like that. And so the point was there are far more powerful interventions from an exercise standpoint that you can do besides a plank. For people that are very, very weak, that are starting out, or people that are injured and rehabbing stuff, yes, it has a role. But to sit there and think that I'm going to do some planks and I'm going to have this super strong core. The world record for a plank is 8 hours. So something that you can sit there and do for 8 hours, and people are doing it for 3 or 4 minutes at most, for most of them, is probably not going to give you the most bang for the buck. And so there's a lot of better things out there to do. It's not that planks are bad for people, but if I say I've only got 20 minutes a day to work out, or even 20 minutes a week, I'm not going to put planks in there if I have a choice to do other things that are going to be far more effective for the same sort of bang for your buck. With regard to sprinting, I like sprinting, but I just caution people when you're actually running a sprint, and you go 100% all as fast as you can, the likelihood for you pulling a hamstring muscle or something like that goes up a little bit. So I tell people, even professional sprinters, they don't go 100% in that drill. They only go 90%. Most of the season. It's only on race day or very few times. They may only run 100% sprint, maybe 2 or 3 times a year. And these guys have perfect mechanics and all the coaches and training and stretching and mobility. So just to go out there and run up full out sprint, you put yourself at higher risk for injury. So I would say you can go out there and run 80%.
Okay.
And just do some 80%ers or 90%ers, but don't go 100%. And so, you know, at this point, I wouldn't do that now. Like I said, I really like bike sprints. You know, I mean, not everybody has access to a bike, but I mean, those things are just, you know, like those indoor bikes where you just go.
Yeah.
Those things are really safe. Surprises me. So jump rope can be a wonderful tool where you just do, you know, 50 jumps in a row, rest a minute or two, do another 50 jumps in a row. That's a great tool. Like you mentioned, push-ups, pull-ups, and you can modify all these to make them easier or harder, you know, depending on what your level is. You know, like you said, you did on your knees. Some people do them on the counter. Some people, you know, will elevate their feet to make it harder. There's different hand positions to make it harder. So those can be very scalable and very good, and it doesn't cost anything. And everybody has that. All you got to have access is a floor.
Yeah.
Most of us have a floor. And you can do body weight squats, just squatting. You know, and a lot of women in particular are concerned about legs and that sort of stuff. So just squat down and stand back up, and you can make it harder or easier. You can hold something in your hands. It's a little bit of weight. You can, you know, I've got weight vests where I just put a weight vest on. It's pretty good, but you can hold kettlebells. Another thing, you know, if I were equipping a household, I said, hey, I got $100 to spend on my home gym. I say, get a kettlebell, get a halfway decent sized kettlebell, and you can do a lot with just that one piece of equipment. You can do swings, you can do squats, you can do, you know, deadlifts, you can do things with your arms, you know, you can carry it around, you can walk with it in one hand awkwardly. And those things are of benefit. You know, there's things you can do, you know, you could probably go in your backyard and find a big rock. You could probably find a rock that weighs 30, 40 pounds, and you can use that. I mean, when I go on vacation and there's nothing around, I'll go get a rock. I'll pick up a big rock and I'll push it up over my head. I might throw it. I might throw it in the air. I might do squats with it. It doesn't have to be expensive. I'll go run sprints up and down a hill, and then I'll come back and I'll do 10 push-ups and 5 rock throws. And I mean, there's so many ways you can do this outside of the gym. And quite honestly, getting outside, particularly in the sun, has so much benefit. You know, it's one of the frustrating things about this lockdown is they're telling people hide in your homes, and people have been doing that. And you know what they've been doing? They've been eating garbage, sitting at home watching Netflix, eating junk, and not going outside. And they've now just increased their likelihood of getting sick, you know, not just from coronavirus, but from really any disease. So that is a thing. But yeah, that's some easy ways you can do this.
If somebody was doing planks and now they've heard that's not really the most efficient way for your core, and I was doing some of those, my push-ups and planks, I'm literally in the floor watching Golden Girls, Dr. Baker. All right, so that's the scene. I'm in the floor, Golden Girls is on, and I'm doing push-ups mostly, some squats. I have been doing some squats because, yes, you're right, that's a concern for a lot of us women. And I'm feeling the burn, but in place of a plank, as far as a core exercise, what could be something that I could do just in my floor that you would recommend?
Well, I mean, again, when we're talking about what people have access to, I mean, you know, if I were looking at core training, I do squats and deadlifts all day long. You know, that's going to be much more. But I mean, and that gets into heavier weights and if you don't have access to that, that's a harder situation. But I mean, I think again, the kettlebell swing, you know, and the same thing, squats, deadlifts, swings are going to give you, in I think not my view, but many people's view, and I think the literature supports this, really good bang for your buck, particularly as you get into heavier and heavier things. You know, you can do one-legged deadlifts. Honestly, I mean, you know, I mean, a lot of people kind of think they're working on their core because they want to lose belly fat or something like that. And that has no bearing. I mean, that's going to do nothing for you. It's going to be 100% diet related, almost completely. So, I mean, that's what I think these people think, well, I'm going to work on my core so I have abs. That doesn't work. You got to tighten up your diet. You know, there's different ways. Like I said, even with the context of a carnivore diet, you can do that. If your goal, like I said, not everybody's goal is to be shredded and six-pack and, you know, a super high-level athlete. For those that are, you know, there's modifications you might do. But for the average person, just, I want to be healthy and not sick. Yeah. You don't have to have a six-pack, man or women. You know, I think that's different from saying it's okay just to have a big giant belly. That's a different statement. I think there's a sort of a normal range, and then there's extremes on either end. And the normal range may be the healthiest people, you know, quite honestly. I mean, as far as longevity, I mean, there's no evidence that walking around with a six-pack relative to having a little bit more body fat is going to confer any great amount of longevity benefit. That's maybe remains to be seen, but I'm not aware of anything that shows that.
Oh, I think that's a really good, important point that we don't hear that often. First of all, folks, you got to figure out what your goal is, right? Exactly what he's saying. If your goal is, like one of our fellow keto carnivore folks, Dr. Fit and Fabulous, I was just talking about her. She wanted to go on the Titan show, right? So she needed to be ripped and be able to lift massive things in a very fast way. She had a goal in mind that she worked very hard towards, and I cheered her on the whole way. That's not a goal of mine, so I don't need to train in the same way that she does. I simply want to look nice in a sleeveless shirt. I want to be able to move when I have grandkids and play with them. What I want to do is to keep feeling good decades from now. But you're right, the weight loss, that is diet. That for me was all about the carbs, the sugars, the grains. Once that went, the weight came off. And now, a decade later, it's like, all right, now let's maintain strength and flexibility. That's been my attitude towards exercise, is I'm not willing to dedicate my life towards it because my goals are not the same as yours. But for people who do have lofty goals, I love watching you on how you train. It inspires me to do more push-ups while I watch TV at night.
And it's fun. And, like I said, when I turned 50, I wanted to learn how to do a backflip because I'd never done one before. So I did. When I first started carnivore, I did a backflip. So
cool.
That's not bad for a guy 6'5", 240 pounds, to do a backflip. So I'm going to probably revisit again that later in the near future and do some more. Maybe when I'm 55, I'll do some backflips. But one of the things you said, and I want to just sort of dig into this because you said, hopefully I'll be blah, blah, blah. Well, when you say hopefully, I always say, don't make it hopefully. Make it happen. You can't just be hopeful. Wishes and dreams are nice, but you got to take action to make it happen. So it won't just hopefully happen if you don't do anything, actively to ensure that. Now, even as carnivores, we can continue to do things beyond just eating that will increase the likelihood that we will have better quality of life as we age. And so, you get choices in life. And for most of us, we don't take those choices. You probably have noticed the more you do it, the easier it becomes to set the time. And everybody talks about, well, I don't have time. And I'm asking, what's your favorite TV show? And they can tell me. And I'm like, well, just by that alone, I know you have time, we're very good at making excuses. And when you say, look, you can do this stuff in, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, maybe 45 minutes a week.
Right.
All of us can generally find the time to do that. Almost always, with rare exception, is to be better than I was at some point in the past. And, you can measure lots of things. You might say, hey, push-ups, and then it might be like there's a gal who's this wonderful inspiration. I don't know if you know her. She calls herself the Carnivore Granny, Donna Leach. Yeah. And she's into doing 200 push-ups. I mean, real legit push-ups at 72 years of age as a female, and knocking them out in 20 minutes, 200 push-ups in 20 minutes. And so you may go from, I couldn't do a single push-up to now I can do 10. So then it might be, how many push-ups can I do in 5 minutes? And then it might be, I could do 14. It might be a couple sets, and then it might be 15. And then you just kind of progress. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And then you'll look back at the days when you couldn't do a single push-up as like, wow.
Yeah.
How amazing is it now? And it happens. It's fun. It really is fun, I think.
Dr. Baker, I love that you are helping people know how to get their diet right, but then also that you inspire us by seeing physically how we could take it to other levels for our health as well. And that you're not just out there preaching the constant how to get skinny. We hear that so much in carnivore. This exercise video is not about how to get skinny. It's about how to stay well, how to feel good, ways that you could improve your health while eating a carnivore diet that may not even have to take up your entire life. And I appreciate you for sharing that message.
Well, it's my pleasure to do it. And I do like that point that, it's just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're healthy. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just not healthy at all. And I'm not pointing specifically to the carnivore community, but I do think that women that are stronger are just healthier people. And I think, I'll just say from a male perspective, I would much prefer see a woman that is physically capable than some skinny waif that's going to fall away in the wind. It's important, and I'm glad to see you doing this more. And I'm glad Dr. Lisa Wiedeman and some of these other long-term carnivores are getting a little more vocal. And I think the space in the carnivore community is becoming more accepted. And, hats off to you from several years ago being out there, being in Women's World and being in these different magazines. And I'm sure you got a lot of criticism and silliness that came your way. And I've seen all that, and I've got it all my way too. But
yeah,
I think, the more people that we have that are positive role models that look to be thriving and can show and demonstrate that yes, you can thrive without eating fruits and vegetables. Yes, you can thrive by eating McDonald's hamburger patties. I think that is so incredibly important, and I'm glad that you've taken to do that. I can't tell you how much I appreciate seeing that, because when I have to convince people, I can say, hey, go look at Kelly Hogan. Look what she's done. Because there's people out there, and we had a really nice talk with Amber O'Hearn the other day, and we're talking about this sort of thing about the grass-fed versus the grain-fed beef and what's better for you. And, when you say, look, there are people that can't afford it. I mean, you filter for wealth. When you say, well, these people with grass-finished beef, feel healthier. Well, they're probably wealthier, first of all. And wealthier people just do better almost always when it comes to health outcomes, just because they have the resources and they have the resources to be healthier. And so, but my mission, and I'm sure you probably be similar, is to help those people, all people. And it doesn't matter their socioeconomic status, doesn't matter what cultural background they come from, what race, what sex, what religion, I don't care. And if they can't afford a whole, this high-end stuff, and we know that you don't need to do that. And that's really, really, really important to know that, yes, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Kroger, you can go to whatever Winn-Dixie or whatever, Piggly Wiggly or whatever store that's available to you. You can buy the ground beef, and get healthy. And, there's some people out there going to say, well, I felt better when I ate grass finished. That's fine. But that's not the majority. That's kind of like a few people that say that. One thing that frustrates me within this community is there's people that, I try to not make it reverse veganism, because veganism is an ideology. Oh, you can't eat if you ate an egg, you're no longer a vegan, you're an awful person, you're a rapist, you're a murderer. Right. And we kind of get a little bit of that in the carnivore community. We get these people that are like, if you don't eat a certain way, if you don't eat raw meat, if you don't eat organs, if you don't eat grass-fed meat, or if you're not 100% pure, if you have a spice on your food, you are beneath contempt.
Right.
You're not a carnivore, whatever. And I think that's just a silly way to do it. I think as long as we focus on getting people healthy, however they get there. Now, again, obviously the focus is going to be on animal source nutrition, however it turns out. And if we can get away from the reverse veganism or the ideologic base, I think we'll go a lot farther as a community, and will positively impact many, many, many more lives. And I hope that message gets out there.
100%. And if every single person watching this could give $2 to help get the research that's going to be coming out to the people who need it the most, I am very excited for the work that you are doing, and I'm happy to support that in any way that I can. Thank you for everything, Dr. Baker.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Kelly. And like I said, I would be remiss not to say that the only reason I'm where I am now is because of people like you and all the other folks that have kind of been out there and done this. And so that's super, super important. So
that's really kind of you to say. Thank you. Thanks, man. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye, Kelly.